Can you hear it? Welcome to Relay.
Of course. Hello. Give me one moment. Sorry.
We're in the darkness.
Sorry, everyone. I realized I didn't quite check this portion of everything. There we go.
We have one human. Now we have two humans.
We have two humans.
Hey, humans.
Hello. It's time for some space stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Space time.
I need a moon shirt for this episode. I don't have one.
Mac got me this for today. It's just a gray t-shirt, but it's got a little pocket square with planets on it.
That's amazing.
And I love it. But I'm also cold, so I'm hiding, and I'm sick because everything is miserable. Yeah. But I wanted to do this anyway. So,
definitely.
Space.
So today we're going to have space news and Apollo 16 and 17. Because I suck, I wasn't able to get Apollo Soyuz jammed in. But we're going to do that at the start of our next episode. That'll be the first thing before space news. And that will finish us off. But next episode we'll have a different main topic.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Which is going to be exciting.
So to start off space news, we're going to start with Falcon Heavy, which launched last week.
And here it is.
Man,
look at that go. It's beautiful.
So, successful launch for Falcon Heavy. We're going to run through a couple more GIFs here of the launch. It was launching Arabsat 6A, which is a geostationary communication satellite for Arabsat. This is a great shot of the stage separation you just saw there. For this flight, they were trying to land all three cores. So we're going to show you a shot of the side cores landing, which did happen first.
This gets me just the nearly synchronized. It's like a ballet with rockets.
With rockets.
Yeah. I love
Coming
it.
down from space.
I love it.
And also we had, this is just a picture, but it's a shot of because we didn't have video, but this is the shot of the center core on the drone ship after it landed.
Yep.
There she is. Now, we got some unfortunate news. Right after it landed, before they were able to go and secure the booster, the weather out there got really bad. So they were not able to secure the booster, and after hours of it bobbing up and down in 10-foot waves, it fell over. So it is on the deck of the drone ship, but it will be coming in laying down rather than standing up.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Good. But it is what it is.
Still,
that landing was insane. They were landing at almost 1,000 kilometers downrange of its launch.
Yeah, and
it was going more than twice as fast as a Falcon 9 normally is when it does stage separation. So it had to scrub twice as much speed in order to land.
Yeah,
which is insane.
So Vulcan Cannon, the center core needed to land on the drone ship because it actually detaches significantly later than the side boosters. Mm-hmm. So they detach first.
At a much higher speed.
They detach first and they're able to get back. But because the center core is way further downrange when it separates and is going faster because it's higher up and yada yada, it cannot make it back to land. So they have to try and land it on the drone ship, which it did. It landed on the drone ship. It just, I mean, it fell over after, but that's
Actually,
still...
the problem was pretty simple. They have a robot that normally goes out and grabs the booster, which is really funny. People call it the Octo Grabber because of how it looks. But the attachment points for the center cores for Falcon Heavy are different from a normal Falcon 9. And so it wasn't able, like the parts that they had to order to retrofit the Octo Grabber weren't done in time. So they didn't have any way to secure the booster unless they put people on the drone ship. And by the time they were able to do that, the seas were already too high. So you don't want to risk, it falling over on a person. So they didn't do it. That's sort of the long explanation of why it fell over, and why it also probably won't happen in the future.
Yeah.
And also, you need to show that last shot because it's amazing. Someone got this great video, very short video, but video of the engines. And it's amazing.
It's beautiful.
So that was Falcon Heavy. Very successful launch. Is a great day for SpaceX. Hugely important. They're getting more and more contracts for Falcon Heavy all the time, and it provides a heavy lift launch vehicle, and is more than twice as powerful as the next most powerful rocket in the world,
and significantly cheaper because they can
much cheaper. Yeah,
re-land it.
All right, so we're going to move on to the black hole. Now, we're going to start off with an image you probably didn't see, or many people didn't see. So, first of all, what the heck are we talking about? Well, humans got our first actual picture of a black hole, or more to the point, we got a picture of the event horizon around a black hole. This was actually because this actually is not very doable for a single telescope. They actually had to use, I believe, 6 telescopes all around the world, and basically turned the entire planet Earth into one giant telescope in order to get this image. Now, this is like the full field of the image they got. What most people saw is a zoomed in section of it, and that's what you'll see in the next image.
Working on it.
Mm-hmm.
There.
So this is a comparison between, the image we mostly saw, which is on the left, and the actual full image, which is on the right. And then instead of just providing a full copy of the main image, I wanted to show this XKCD because it actually illustrates it way better than anything else I've seen. So that black hole is bigger than our solar system, as you can see. In the little tiny dot in the center is the sun, and then the ring around it is Pluto's orbit. And then Voyager, you can see where Voyager 1 is. That's the distance Voyager 1 is from the sun. So yeah, this is a supermassive black hole, and it lives up to its name. It is larger than our solar system.
Yeah. It's kind of big.
Yeah, it's just, and honestly, the fact that they were even able to do this was absolutely incredible, and it is it was very important. One of the most important things that happened was that it validated their simulations and their models, because their simulations and models looked almost exactly like this image.
Yeah.
Which was huge.
It's important because lots of the time science is like, hey, this thing, it's probably going to do this, but we don't know because we can't check it yet. And then 50 years later, someone comes along and figures out a way to turn an entire planet into a telescope and say, yeah, this is all right. And then everyone's like, sweet. That,
once again,
because if it weren't, holy shit, just back to the drawing board on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that does happen frequently in science, where they're just like, this is what should happen, and it doesn't happen. And they're like, okay.
Let's try and figure out something that explains why.
Exactly.
Which is why science is awesome.
So moving along from a giant hole in space, we have the Beresheet lunar lander. So this is Israel's lunar lander. It was actually privately funded non-profit type of deal. It did have some government support, but it was mostly designed and built by private agency. So it had a lot of check marks beside it. It would be the first private lunar lander, and also was by far the cheapest. I think the total cost of this mission was $100 million. That's nothing. And it performed very well. Flew all the way to the moon. Took about 2 months to get there, using a really cool trick of orbital mechanics, where it basically like pushed itself very slowly up and up and up out of Earth's orbit until it got to the point where the moon started to attract it, and then it sort of fell down the hill into lunar orbit. Pretty cool. And this was the last image it took. Unfortunately, most of the mission went perfectly, but then when they were trying to land, the main engine failed on the lander, and therefore it hit the ground at an alarming rate. But we did get this amazing picture and many other great pictures from the lander before it smashed into the ground.
And remember, space is hard.
Space is really hard. And things have to go perfectly at just the right moments, and it doesn't always work out like that. They have said, Israel has said they're going to try again. Probably with a lander, I'm guessing, quite similar to this. And I'm really looking forward to their next attempt. The next attempt at a lunar landing is actually not too far from now. India has a lunar landing that I believe is in May. Yeah, I think it's Chandrayaan-2. Yeah. Oh, all we have right now is 2019. But last I heard was May. And that mission will be an orbiter, lander, and rover. It looks like it's now been pushed back into the second half of 2019, but it is coming up this year. Anyway, that is space news for this week. There's a lot more space news that happened, but I'm trying to keep it to the not an hour long of just space news.
Next time. I've put a strict limit on the timing for tonight
mostly because I'm bad at planning. We should have started earlier.
I'm sick, damn it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Apollo.
Yes.
The last of the Moon Men. We're starting with Apollo 16, and we're going to start off with the insignia. We're very strict with insignias. We tend to be very mean about the ugly ones.
No, see, this one's not
too bad. The eagle's a little bit weird, but
I'm gonna throw it out right here as an evidence of how tired I am. I for a second misread the names at the bottom to say you're madly drunk.
That sounds very appropriate.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there, you know? But aside from the quite frankly weird like dripping wings on this eagle,
totally.
like that eagle, it's got some issues. It is not having a good day.
It's injured.
It's hurting. I really like the foopies, you know?
The foopies, well, and that's cool because that's kind of like part of NASA's logo now. So,
yeah, I like the foopies.
Yep, the foopies are good.
Ugh.
All right, so let's move along to our crew picture here.
Yes, crew.
So, for those who have seen Apollo 13 or were with us for the Apollo 13 episode, you may remember Ken Mattingly. Ken Mattingly was the crew member of Apollo 13 that was kicked off the mission just a couple days before launch because he might get the measles. He did not get the measles.
It's funny. This happened. And then humanity as a whole was like, hey, let's just fix measles. And for like 30 years, we did. And then some fucking idiots decide, you know what? I'd better
Measles
not
are great.
protect my children from measles because I'm a fuckwad. And now measles is back.
Yep.
Yep.
So Ken Mattingly is on the left there. He was the command module pilot for this mission. In the middle there, we have John Young, who was the commander. And on the right, we have Charles Duke, who is the lunar module pilot. So, Apollo 16 was the second to last mission to the lunar surface. For this mission, the command module was named Casper, and the lunar module was named Orion. The crew was, of course, Ken Mattingly, as mentioned, who was the command module pilot. He was famously grounded for 3 days before Apollo 13. John Young, commander, was on his 4th space flight. He previously had flown on Gemini 3 and 10, as well as Apollo 10. And he would actually go on to, I believe, fly 2 shuttle missions. So he was in space like his whole life.
Get me off of this rock.
And Charles Duke was the lunar module pilot, and it was his only space flight.
I guess I should just leave them up while we're talking about them, really.
Well, I just finished.
I know, but...
So let's take a look at at the lunar landing spot. There it is. I kind of like this picture because you can see where on the surface of the moon they landed. Kind of cool. So this spot is called the Descartes Highlands. They were chosen as a landing site for this mission because scientists widely believe that the region was formed by volcanic activity. In the year before the launch, John Young and Charles Duke went through geology training focused in an area near Sudbury, Ontario, Canada.
I've been there.
Ken Mattingly also received training recognizing geological features from orbit by flying over similar earthbound features in an airplane. The launch of Apollo 16 was delayed 1 month due to several technical problems. There was an investigation of an issue with spacecraft separation hardware, the lunar module batteries had an issue, and there was also an issue with John Young's spacesuit. In addition to those, there was also accidental damage to a fuel tank, which had to be replaced. That's a lot of things to go wrong before you fly.
Yeah.
Anyway, it launched. Let's take a look at the launch.
Is this one video?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think it's just an image. Yes, got it. Haha.
So Apollo 16, I love that picture,
That's
by the way.
a beautiful photo.
Apollo 16 launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 12:54 p.m. local time on April 16th of 1972.
Wait. Today.
What? Oh, it is today.
It was
Holy
today.
crap. That's weird. I didn't even notice that. That's appropriate. Apparently, we should have done the show at 12:54 p.m. Eastern.
That's
Oh, well.
really cool. It launched on my birthday.
It launched on your birthday.
I mean, a couple of years before, but like...
No. You're 47,
Something.
right?
Something like that.
You probably feel like you're 47 today.
Oh, God. Today, I think I'm like 90.
So the launch went normally, and once on orbit, the crew experienced only a few minor technical glitches. After the translunar injection burn put them on a trajectory to the moon, the normal transposition and docking maneuver to dock with and extract the lunar module was performed. The crew noted after the maneuver that there appeared to be a torn or shredded spot on the skin of the lunar module, with particles being given off from this point. However, upon entering the lunar module and inspecting all of its systems, they couldn't find anything wrong. They got this fantastic picture of the Earth on the way to the moon. I love that picture. It's a good one.
It's a damn good picture. Like,
On the trip to the moon, the astronauts performed several experiments and continued to examine the spacecraft systems. Again, only a few minor technical issues were found and corrected. And once again, we had an issue with the lunar module with paint peeling off of it. Forgive Eris, he's just joking.
sorry. Carry on.
The spacecraft also performed a short burn on its way to tweak its trajectory. On day 4, the crew began preparations for the maneuver to enter orbit of the moon. The scientific instrument module bay cover was jettisoned, and then the spacecraft was. Then, when the spacecraft was passing behind the moon, it executed the orbital insertion burn, which was 6 minutes and 15 seconds long of burning the engine.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a long burn.
Following this successful burn, a further burn was executed to lower the spacecraft's orbit. On day 5 of the mission, the crew woke and immediately prepared for the separation of the lunar module Orion from the command module Casper. After separation, Casper was in preparations to circularize its orbit when a malfunction was discovered in the steerable rocket engine backup systems. Great. For several hours, this issue was analyzed with the two spacecraft orbiting together but not but separated. This actually was discovered after they separated. It was determined that the issue could be worked around, and Young and Duke were given permission to land. However, they were now 6 hours behind schedule for landing. They began their descent at a higher altitude than any of the previous missions, 20.1 kilometers. Thankfully, the landing went as planned, and Orion landed 270 meters north and 60 meters west of its planned landing site. There's a great, although blurry, shot of out the window of Casper.
Not gonna lie.
Sorry, Orion. My
I
bad.
will never get tired of looking at pictures of the moon.
Nope.
Just won't. I just won't.
I have the same feeling about pictures of Mars too. I often just go and look at all the Curiosity pictures. And
Yeah.
this is cool. So after landing, the schedule for the mission was reworked slightly to account for the issues with Casper. The amount of time that the crew would orbit the moon after reuniting with the lunar module at the end of the mission was reduced by a day. And the final EVA on the lunar surface was also reduced by 2 hours. The following morning, the crew began their first EVA onto the lunar surface. Charlie Duke became and remains the youngest person to walk on the moon at 36 years old.
I've got time.
Yep, you can get there. Hey, just go along on the Dear Moon mission and then jump out.
Yeah. Flawless plan.
Yep. The first tasks for the crew were deploying the LRV and the far ultraviolet camera / spectrograph. And let's take a look at that. So that's actually a picture of it down here on Earth. I use that picture because the one on the moon is really hard to see. But it's basically a telescope, and but it operates in ultraviolet, and they actually used it to take pictures of the Earth. So let's take a look at that. That is a picture of the Earth in ultraviolet from the moon. So the part that's lit up is the day, basically day on Earth, and the little bits you can actually see that are on the night side are actually aurora, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but on Apollo, I think it was Apollo 15, after they deployed the LRV, the front steering didn't work. And then it just suddenly started working again for no reason. On Apollo 16, The rear steering wasn't working. So actually here in this picture, there's lots of stuff here. This is John Young, and the flag. You can see the LRV is parked there in front of the lunar module. And then off to the right, like right beside John Young's leg, that's that telescope we just saw. All right. So the next day was the next day's task was deploying the Apollo experiments package, and just like Apollo 50, the LRV's rear steering just started working again, and they don't know why. And it continued to work for the rest of the mission.
It stage fright.
Apparently. Unfortunately, while deploying the heat flow experiment, a cable snapped when it became caught around Young's foot. 4 hours into this EVA, the pair hopped aboard the LRV and took off to their first geologic stop, Plum Crater, a 36-meter wide crater on the rim of a much larger 240-meter flag crater. This site was 1.4 kilometers from Orion. This was a site where they took a whole bunch of samples, including the largest rock ever recovered on an Apollo mission, which was named Big Muley. It was 26 pounds. And the next picture is actually a picture of Charlie Duke picking Big Muley up off the ground on the lunar surface. There he is. From there, the crew moved on to Buster Crater, which is 1.6 kilometers from Orion. And there, Charlie Duke took pictures of Young while he deployed a magnetic field experiment. Took pictures while Young deployed a magnetic field experiment. This was a point at which scientists began reconsidering their pre-mission hypothesis that Descartes had been the site of volcanic activity in the past, as the astronauts were not finding any volcanic material. To round out the EVA, John Young did a demonstration drive of the lunar roving vehicle, while Duke filmed him on the movie camera.
Why not?
Yeah, of course. After completing some more of these tasks on the Apollo experiments package, the pair returned to the lunar module to complete the EVA, just a little over 7 hours after venturing outside. There's a good picture of Young and the rover on the. They kind of play the term mountain a bit fast and loose, but that is on the side of Stone Mountain.
Hey, thanks for the follow, Shafty Shafts.
Yeah, thank you, Shafty Shafts. The second EVA was focused heavily on geology. The pair of astronauts climbed Stone Mountain to reach Cinco Craters, 3.8 kilometers from the lunar module. They were 152 meters above the valley floor. It was about 500 feet. And this actually put the astronauts higher above the lunar module than any other Apollo mission. Young and Duke then visited several other areas of interest to collect samples before working their way back to Orion. Near Orion, they took core samples and conducted penetrometer tests, which sounds very dirty. Anyway.
I mean, probably covered in moon dust, so...
Yeah. And that second EVA wrapped up as the crew climbed back into the lunar module 7.5 hours after departing. You'll actually notice there's that, at least Apollo 15 through 17, those first two lunar walks are pretty much all about 7 hours. To start their third EVA, Charlie Duke and John Young drove out to explore North Ray Crater, a large crater about 1 kilometer wide. The drive was smooth, and upon reaching the crater, they were 4.4 kilometers from the lunar module. And they happened upon House Rock. They called it House Rock because it's hard to tell from that picture, but that rock is actually 4 stories tall. It's huge. And so,
It's a
being
house.
astronauts, they took samples from that rock, and it actually conclusively proved that the area was not formed by volcanic activity. Of course, they didn't actually know that until later when they were examining the samples, but still. Next up was Shadow Rock. By the way, they have very creative names for these rocks. Hello, Outlook. Yeah, stop being mean to Arist. He's sick and he's birthdaying.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yeah, I will say they really aren't very good at naming these. House Rock, Shadow Rock. Why? Why is because it casts a shadow?
Yes. Actually, the reason they named Shadow Rock is because it casts a permanent shadow. But still. So let's take a look at Shadow Rock with Charlie Duke standing beside it.
Haha. Permanent shadow.
So, as they were driving downhill towards this location, they actually set a lunar speed record, which obviously stands to this day, at 17 kilometers per hour.
Woo! Motoring.
Or just a little over 10 miles an hour. Yeah. Yes, they were. So this rock was about 10 feet tall, nowhere near as big as House Rock. But they focused on this rock because they wanted to sample the permanently shadowed soil beside Shadow Rock. So, after they returned to Orion, the crew finished up a few experiments and relocated the rover. Duke placed a photograph of his family and a United States Air Force commemorative medallion on the surface. There's a great picture there of Charlie Duke's family. A picture of Charlie Duke's family. And so, 5 hours and 40 minutes after they departed, Young and Duke climbed back aboard the lunar module and prepared to lift off back to orbit and rendezvous with Ken Mattingly aboard Casper. And of course, Ken Mattingly had been orbiting above them doing tons of experiments using the scientific instrument module aboard Casper.
That's pretty cool.
So that's kind of a neat shot. That was actually, you can see that. I think it was last episode we had a video of takeoff when right at the moment of liftoff, there's like this huge spray of just crap that flies out from the base of the ascent module, and this is like a still shot of that, and it's pretty damn cool. So, after successful rendezvous with Casper, the crew relocated all of their collected samples into the command module and then went to sleep. The next day, they completed their final checks and they jettisoned the lunar module. However, their final checks were a little bit off. They forgot to activate a switch in the lunar module before they jettisoned it, which would have provided a deorbit burn, which would have smashed the lunar module into the surface of the moon as they had intended. But that never happened. So it actually ended up taking almost a year for the lunar module to impact the surface of the moon. The crew then deployed a satellite, but of course, because their mission got all screwed up by the engine malfunction before lunar landing, the satellite actually had to be placed in the wrong orbit. So it actually didn't last very long, only about half of its expected lifespan. That satellite was studying the magnetic field of the moon. So after all of that occurred, they were able to execute basically a perfect burn to bring them back home. And then Ken Mattingly climbed outside.
As they do.
As you do, yeah. So 310,000 kilometers from Earth, Ken Mattingly climbed outside to retrieve the film cassettes from the scientific instrument module. Because again, there's no digital media. You want to take pictures, you got to go get the film.
Yeah.
And on their way home, the crew mostly just performed experiments and did a press conference from space, which is cool. Casper successfully splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, and the spacecraft and crew were recovered by the USS Ticonderoga on April 27th, 1972. I don't have a picture of splashdown and recovery, but the USS Ticonderoga actually also recovered Apollo 17, so to look similar.
I mean,
So
really,
that-
splashdown after being in space once, they're all the same.
Yeah, right? So, then we move on to Apollo 17, which is the final moon mission. And our last insignia. Well, yeah, for this. Yeah.
I mean,
That one's kind of cool, but weird.
I like it, except for I'm unclear why they have like
Saturn?
Saturn and
Oh, that might be for the Saturn V.
okay, but why do they have
That-
like the whole universe? Or like a
that's
galaxy.
Probably because no, I don't have this. I don't have a reason for that. I'm out.
Okay.
I'm out. That's it.
And really they should have had 5 Saturns.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
Yeah. Flint Dragon. All of these missions were Saturn V.
yeah.
So move on to the crew. The crew for this mission was Harrison Schmitt as the lunar module pilot. There he is. Eugene Cernan as commander, and Ronald Evans as command module pilot. And Cernan is the one in the middle there. So once again, this is a picture of Eugene Cernan doing his geological training in Sudbury, Ontario. Damn aliens, indeed. And the Apollo 17 mission launched on December 7th of 1972 after a 2-hour and 40-minute delay due to a minor technical issue. This actually put the launch, I believe it launched something like 1:30 in the morning. So firmly a night launch. And for this mission, the command module was named America, and the lunar module was named Challenger.
Fitting almost.
So, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the experiments that were on board this flight because there were a lot. It was the last mission, and yeah. So, one of the things that was on this mission was called the Traverse Gravimeter, or gravimeter, depending on how you want to pronounce it. This was used to take local gravity measurements, which they were able to use to learn about the interior structure of the moon. Basically, as they were driving around, they would take measurements all over the place to measure the local gravity, and that actually allowed them to determine like what the interior structure was. This picture is actually a great image of the SIM-bay, the Scientific Instrument Module Bay. So this is the bay where a whole bunch of scientific instruments were held, and they were pointed down at the moon as they went over to take a whole bunch of different readings. These instruments included a lunar sounder, an infrared scanning radiometer, a far ultraviolet spectrometer, a mapping camera, a panoramic camera, and a laser altimeter. During this mission, they also did a light flash experiment because, as many people know, the astronauts on Apollo experienced flashes of light in their eyes, even when their eyes were closed. And they were doing an experiment here to try and determine what the cause of that was. And due to some equipment they brought on board, they were able to determine that was the reason for that was that the astronauts' retinas were being hit by cosmic rays, and that caused the light flash. And then, I don't know where Eris went. I think he just left me alone. God. Yay, cosmic radiation indeed. So, they also did a mouse experiment on this mission. They wanted to determine if those cosmic rays would do any damage, radiation-wise, to mice. So they took 5 mice along with them. 4 of the mice survived. The 5th one didn't die of any radiation-related problem, but probably natural causes. Probably one of my favorite things about this mission was the mice were nicknamed by the crew Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum, and Fooey. Unlike some of the previous flights, this flight went very smoothly all the way to the moon. Did you hear about Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum, and Fooey?
I did. I heard it all.
It's amazing. So yes, the flight went smoothly all the way to the moon. Schmidt and Cernan landed without incident on the moon. This is amazing. They finally managed to perfect it after like 1 billion Apollo missions. There actually aren't 1 billion, but you know what I mean.
I mean 17. And really,
no, not
like
actually not
10.
17, but like how many were there again? Like 13, something like that. But yeah. Basically, everything went perfectly on this flight, all the way to the surface of the moon. And they landed on the moon at 2:55 p.m. Eastern Time on December 11th. Their first moonwalk began just 4 hours after landing, so about 6:55 p.m. And their first task was to offload the LRV and equipment from Challenger.
So
you'll notice the pictures from this mission are way better.
Yes. Sid Vicious there has a good question. Is it true that the moon rang like a bell when NASA crashed the probes into it? It was on Ancient Aliens.
I mean, kind of doubt it. I mean, yes, when you crash stuff into the moon, it does cause vibrations that are picked up by some seismometers. But I don't think it made a noise like a bell.
No.
They probably would have reported that. But yeah, great pictures on this mission. As you can see, we got color. Color's cool.
Yeah,
we've had color on other ones.
The buggy's kind of orange.
Yeah. So that's Eugene Cernan aboard the lunar roving vehicle there. The first significant and probably only real significant problem on this mission was that that Cernan accidentally broke a fender off of the LRV. And of course, this was fixed with duct tape and a map.
As all things should be fixed with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the map is of.
I would
I don't know
assume
why they
it
had
was-
a map.
It was
I guess it was a
probably
surface map.
no. It was probably a map of Sydney, Australia.
Well, probably.
Yeah,
They just happened to have it in their glove box.
yeah. I mean, they were planning on stopping over there after they got back to Earth. You know,
Yes, in
picking out good restaurants.
in 1972, they definitely had a Star Citizen roadmap. So, as on every other previous Apollo mission, the crew deployed the Apollo Experiments package and then did their first geologic mission, gathering 14 kilograms of samples south of their landing site. And they also deployed 2 explosive packages.
Oh, why not?
These were later detonated remotely to test geophones and seismometers that had been placed on the surface. And this first EVA was about 7 hours and 12 minutes. And we have a great picture of Eugene Cernan on the moon. And then, probably my favorite bit of this entire thing, a video with some audio afterwards. Again, great quality picture. I like the hills in the background.
I like that you can see the hills through the little radar telescoping thing. Mm-hmm. It's neat to know that was mostly see-through. Okay, let me see if I can get
Make
this
sure the
working.
audio is working on this.
Yeah, I'm going to try. That would be that one, I think.
Way too quiet.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Okay, here. Sorry.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry month of December. May, when much to my surprise, a pair of bunny eyes. Do-do-do-do-do. Oh, is this a neat way to travel? Isn't it great? Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. 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 I like to skip along, but me, boy, skip.
Oh my god, that would totally be me on the moon.
I love that video. It's great. So the second EVA featured several geologic missions, including to an avalanche at the base of the South Massif, a collection of orange-colored soil at Shorty Crater, and samples of Camelot Crater. And that second EVA was 7.5
model.
hours long.
It's just a model.
Yeah. Also, they did deploy 3 more explosive packages and gathered 34 kilograms of samples.
I'm sorry.
And sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That was bad. I apologize.
Yeah, I know. You should.
I'm apologizing to them. You're used to it.
Oh, not to me. Okay.
No.
So
No.
the second EVA was 7 hours and 37 minutes. They deployed their 3 more explosive packages and 34 kilograms of samples were gathered. The third EVA was again just all pure geologic missions. They were running around gathering samples all over the place, picking up rocks and throwing them in their backpacks and all that good stuff. This included missions north and east of their landing site to North Massif, the Sculptured Hills, and the crater Van Serg. This mission was 7 hours and 15 minutes. But, of course, this wrapped up the final mission to the moon. And Eugene Cernan said, as he climbed back aboard the lunar module, "I'm on the surface. And as I take man's last step from the surface, back home for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, I'd like to just say what I believe history will record. That America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow. And as we leave the moon at Taurus Littrow, we leave as we came, and, God willing, as we shall return, with peace and hope for all mankind. Godspeed from the crew of Apollo 17.
Here's
we have a
hoping.
couple.
Here's hoping.
Yes. Then there's a great shot of the final resting site for the lunar roving vehicle for Apollo 17, which you can see was a fair distance from the lunar module. And then we actually had a picture from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter from 2011 of the landing site for Apollo 17. Pretty
Which
cool,
is
hey?
super cool because you can still see their tracks.
Yep.
Like-
all over the damn place.
It's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that.
And the next picture is pretty cool too. It's a sample of lunar regolith in the Natural History Museum that was collected on from Apollo 17. You just get a lot more detail than you normally would.
We were
Pretty
there
neat.
once, and maybe someday we'll go again.
Yeah. So, kind of to go with the rest of their mission, their return to Earth was very uneventful. Everything went pretty much perfectly. This was probably one of the only Apollo missions that had almost no technical problems. Really, their biggest technical problem was they accidentally ripped the fender off their LRV.
Hope they have Geico.
Right. So the last picture here is a great picture of splashdown and recovery from America itself. And there is the USS Ticonderoga. I don't know, there's something just very American about, being out in the open ocean, just crawling out of your space capsule and having an aircraft carrier come pluck you from the water.
Yep.
And so that wraps up the main missions from Apollo. Obviously, very fondly remembered by everybody. Hopefully you guys had a good time following along with us in our episodes. We are going to touch on and have a discussion about Apollo-Soyuz next episode. Apollo-Soyuz was... basically, they had leftover Apollo hardware, and they wanted to demonstrate that they could cooperate with the Russian space program. So they actually had a mission where a Soyuz spacecraft launched from Russia and an Apollo spacecraft launched from the US, and they actually docked together. And pretty cool little mission.
Yeah.
But it unfortunately was not to the moon.
And then, do we know what we're gonna focus on next time?
No, I'm going to leave that up in the air. We would love to get some suggestions of what people would like to see next. We need a good suggestion for a main focus of an episode.
Yep.
My ideas here are things like single missions. So things like Cassini, things like the Dawn mission, things like New Horizons would be a good one. Things like that. But also anything you want. Like if you want me to do a full episode on the history of
Canada.
Lockheed Martin, I will do it. I was going to say SpaceX, but everyone's heard the history of SpaceX from my mouth 1,000 damn times.
Also, we started with SpaceX.
Probably.
Our
Yes, we did.
first like
It was a while
3 or
ago.
4 episodes were a history of SpaceX. So
Yes, they were. Jeez, I totally forgot about that.
I remember.
Yeah, you have better memory than me, apparently. But thank you everybody for coming along with us. I did promise David that I would keep it to an hour or less, and we're a little under an hour, so I guess we're pretty much perfect. He needs to go to sleep because he's sick,
I'm gonna go have some Neocitrin.
and hopefully we can have another episode very soon, and
Yes.
we can do more space stuff.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys around. Thanks for joining us. And 2 weeks from now, with hope. But shoot at us on Discord. What?
Sid says the space shuttle. There's like 150 space shuttle missions.
It's a good one. Throw us
I could try.
seriously though. Add us on Discord and throw us your suggestions for what you want us to cover, and we'll do what we can.
I could cover the space shuttle more generally.
It was a
this is what
thing.
the
It
space shuttle
flew.
was.
It was
Well,
cool.
no, not that general.
It's sad that it's gone. The space shuttle by Nakara. Da, da, da,
There's an
da.
episode in 5 seconds from David.
I should do that. I should do 5-second David episodes
Yep,
summarizing the 3-hour Nakara episodes.
totally.
Okay. I'm gonna go
Just
sleep
do
now.
Challenger. I could do Challenger. Yeah, that's not a bad suggestion actually. Although it'd be sad.
It's sad, but it is a good one to talk about. It kind of goes with the whole theme of, hey, space is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did not do a Voyager episode already. That would be. Did we do a Voyager episode already?
I don't think so. I don't think we did Voyager yet.
No, I think we've basically did SpaceX and then we jumped into Apollo.
Yeah,
And then Apollo took us way longer than we thought it would.
we thought Apollo was going to be like 3 episodes.
It was like 6.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
yeah.
I need to sleep. Thanks
All
so
right,
much for
guys.
hanging out, guys. The
Thank
next one will be a little more in depth and longer, but good night, all.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.